A new series this month on gardening. I'm sure you all have some insights into gardening, and some of us are pros, others are learning. So bear with us, we're all going to learn. Even if you're a pro, I'm still sure you will find some helpful tips and tricks that you could learn, and then share also. If you're a pro, make sure you're sharing with us so we are all learning, because sometimes it's in your sharing that we learn, it's in our sharing that you learn. But that is the importance of us all being together. So today we start our series on gardening
as also a way, even though you cannot do it year round in under certain circumstances. I saw it as a way to build, strength. And I also like the outdoors a lot.
Right.
I like to be outdoor in the woods, hike, So gardening helps me just to be out there, helps me to, build strength, helps you to build your mood, have a very good mood, and helps you to recover your memories and stuff like that. So it's something that I was doing as a child. I was born into a farming family. So I just love to be out there. So it's nice.
Do things. Wow. So some of us, as much as we grew in the, villages, we never learned this amazing thing to do. And so for some of us watching, we say, oh, we are not gardeners. But like I said at the beginning, we have a master gardener who made us in his image. So all of us, we have a bit of gardening in us, because we are made, even the makeup was in the garden, right? So we really have to think about it, because this time I'm going to challenge you this month or this year, look at this gardening thing a little more differently than you've done in the past, and apply yourself to it, because you will learn some valuable skill sets, some valuable insights, even to your own personal Christian walk as you do the garden. So yourself. If I am a beginner, and like I said, I've given myself all these good reasons why I'm not a gardener, but I want to start. I am thinking of starting gardening this year and all that. Where do I start from? And how do I do it?
Oh, I think that, just like you said, I had a background where I grew up, my father being a farmer and stuff like that. But I believe that, there's a scripture when you read, I think, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 1. The Bible said that through a desire, a man intermeddled himself with all wisdom.
Wow.
So first, what you need is a desire.
A desire, even for gardening.
For gardening, you need to have a desire for it. And once the desire is there, it makes you to search for the wisdom to do it.
Remember, I think you have to hold on here, because you said two things that are really important that we assimilate. Because again, when I said we are doing gardening, I'm sure some people just wrote it off and said, I am not a gardener, and I don't really look at these things. But you're saying two things that they apply not just to gardening, but to every area of our lives. You said we have to think about the desire. The desire should be the driver. I want to be, and we are all masterpieces. We are made in the image of God. Like I said, God was the first gardener. He made the Garden of Eden. He made us even in the garden. And you're saying the desire to connect with that master gardener should be there. And then that will help us to seek the wisdom. Those are two very important things that you said right there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lady Pastor. So once you have the desire, and then the wisdom comes, and then you sit down, and then you're going to get into how do I even start it? So the desire, like you said, is what is going to push you to take the next steps to achieve what you want to do. So the most important thing is to have a desire, because it's not everybody that have a backyard. It's not, some people live in apartments, some people live in communities, and easy to say, but if you have a desire, there are so many ways. You don't need to live in a house to have a garden. You don't need to live in an apartment to have a garden. There are so many ways that you can have a garden.
Wow. Wow. So once we have the desire, then we'll find the ways around even our circumstances to make this happen. You remember last year when we talked about wellness, and you were talking last year with us, You talked about how, some of the foods that we even buy, common foods that we buy out there in the supermarkets, have all these GMO stuff to it. So gardening also provides us that opportunity to grow some of the food. We may not be able to grow everything, right? But
Yes.
some of them we can do that. So how important is that to being thoughtful and saying, okay, I know that some of the foods, I may not be able to do it, but this is the little I can do. And I do that. Yeah. Yeah. That is really important. So now that if we are starting like pros, then or as even beginners, we are starting from no knowledge base. We have the desire. We are now seeking the wisdom. So where do we start from, wisdom wise? Do we need a land? What do we need?
I think that once you have the desire to do it, then you go in search of how you be able to accomplish that desire. And I think that for the beginners, for all of us, we all learn as we grow. We learn every day. So it's not like this one is a pro, this one got it all together. As I'm talking to you, I'm also learning. And I think after you have the desire, one of the important things to think about is siting of the garden is very important. Where am I going to do it? I remember when I used to live in an apartment, I didn't have a land. So what I used to do is that my balcony, and then one thing is the siting. Siting is right. You must have a right siting. And then you must also, there is a saying that we say the farmers follow the sun. The sun is very important,
Wow.
So if, let's say, you live in an apartment, maybe the best that you can do is to have pots. Then there are also some communities that the cities have land that, everybody, once you are a resident of the city, it might not be by your house or by your apartment, but at least you have to drive a little distance to go to this general gardening area that anybody in the city can have a portion of land to plant whatever you want to plant. You see, and then once you have the availability of the land, then you have to think about, even the soil type, the soil that you have. Is it something that I need to tweak it? Do I need more mulch and all those things? If you're going to do containers, you have to think about what containers am I going to use, because every plant and the type of container that goes well with it. So if you are planting deep-rooted, vegetables, you don't want to plant in a pot. Deep-rooted vegetables, the best thing is to plant them in ground or have a bed or something like that. So, and then I think it's something that will also come to, once you have that, you have to choose what you want to plant.
Right.
You have to decide on what you want to plant. And then once you decide on that, you also have to think about your zone. In United States, because of the different timing zones and the different seasons, we have about 11 zones when it comes to planting.
Wow.
And depending on your state, there is a particular time that it will be good for you to start planting. And most of this information, when you go to USDA website, everything is out there, and you can know your zone. And like, as you reach out to me for us to do this, I already knew our zone in Connecticut, but I kind of look at where you are, because and then we are almost in the same planting zone.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are a few things that you need to think about, and you must always also think about availability of water.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I see. So I think that you raise a few questions that I'm going to piggyback on. And Teddy is saying that, yes, there are some groups on Facebook as well that help with gardening. So these are great resources out there that we are sharing. And you have to commit to learning about this. You have to commit to being, part of what you are trying to learn. And that's what you said. You have to dig for the information. There's a lot of information out there, and sometimes we don't want to do the work. But this is going to be some information, and then we will share some of the resources as well, and then we can keep exploring it. So sometimes when I've said gardening, some people have looked at it and said, oh, gardening is too expensive to do. So do I need a budget? Do I have to think about a budget if I'm going to start a gardening? And is it too much? Is it too expensive, really?
I mean, for me, I don't think it's too expensive.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, obviously, it depends on the extent to which you want to take it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's good always. It doesn't matter whether it's gardening or whatever you are doing. It's good to have a budget so that you don't go haywire. You know, as Ghanaians would say, it's like you buy everything that needs to be bought, and then before you realize you spent $1,000 and you were expecting a lot of harvest, and it's like you get disappointed. So
Right.
I would say for all of us as beginners, just first know what you want to plant and go small. Try it, you know, a little bit, very small, and see how it's gonna go the first year. And as it goes well, or you learn as you do it the first year, and the second year you can increase your garden size a little. Because when I started, I used to do pot. That's when I was in that apartment. I used to do pot, and the pot, buying the pot, you know, buying a few tools that I would need, and then also the soil. I have to buy the soil and stuff like that. And you know, if you are buying your seed from the nursery, or you are going to nurse your own seed, these are all little costs that comes in. And I think my first year of doing backyard gardening on my balcony, I think in all buying everything, I spent like $150.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
And then a lot of these things you can reuse them, right?
yes, a lot of the tools. I mean, I've had tools that I've used. I've been gardening for almost like 7 years, 8 years now, and I've had these things. Still, I still use them, and you know, they're all good. You know,
Right.
the pots, they also last longer. And then now when I moved from the apartment to a house, I now have a bigger land area, so I'm planting more than I used to plant in the in when I used to be in the apartment. So last year, I think I spent with everything, because I'm buying different things, trying different things out and stuff. I think last year for the gardening, I spent $250. And I have a bigger area. So I'm
Right.
not saying that $250 is,
It's going to be the cost. Yeah.
yeah, but at least be
Yeah.
prepared to spend a little bit money.
Be
Not
prepared
too
to
much.
spend. Abba said her tool is missing, you know, but she has to replace it anyway. Abba, you have to replace your tool, and be prepared to spend. And Pastor Ned said, commit to the learning and starting small. I think we are hearing some things for those of us who are starting new in this gardening thing, and we don't know much. Don't go, you know, big scale. Start small. It may be just a few things, and we'll talk about some of the common things that we can start off with. But it may be, you know, just a small one for this year. You try it out, you add, and you keep adding, and you keep adding. You know, that's, you know, a good way to start. Lydia says something which I want to also share. It says it's good to share the seedlings to cut costs. So I don't know about different areas, but I have a neighborhood community app, and normally people will post and say, oh, I have herbs that I have excess. If you want it, don't be too proud. I mean, it's right there. Just use it. Just start with that. Someone would say, I have more tomatoes. I mean, last year I got all my herbs from a neighbor, and then other things that they also had. So it's always a good thing to share, and don't, and you also share sometimes, right? Yeah. You also share. So I think that is good. Yeah. All right. So we are getting a lot of information also from you on the platform, which is amazing.
And I think, Lady President, let me say this quick. I heard a story about a farmer who lived in a community, and he was always selected as the best farmer for the year. Wow. So as he retired, and one day they were interviewing him on the phone, on the phone, and then he came on TV, and they asked him, why is it that always his crops were the best? And he said that, you know, and then he had a nursery, and every year he would do a nursery and plants. And then what he did was that he planted his best seeds. And what he did, one thing he also said that he shared the nursery, the things that, the seedlings, everything, the best, he shared with all the people in the community and across the community. Everybody can have some to plant.
Right.
And the reason why he did is that, when you're a farmer, one of the things that you think about is cross-pollination.
Oh.
So the birds will go into the neighborhood, and come and, because if they are going to eat anything, they are going to eat it from the best, and they will come and settle on his, plants. And the cross-pollination, if there's cross-pollination, he's getting the best out of it.
Wow.
So it's always good to share.
It's always good to share. What a lesson.
Yeah.
It's always good to share. You would have thought that by sharing, you are losing out. But look at it. That's why I said this gardening thing is going to help us on our own personal lives journey and everything. Because again, we have a master gardener who made us in a garden, created a garden for us. So we all have that gardening in us, whether we know it or not. Today we are hoping, and this month we are hoping to ignite that desire that has been buried in you to, explore that gardening. Because as you commit to learning that gardening, you're going to commit to learning some life lessons, the investment that gardening takes, the tools that you need. Maybe we need tools for our own personal lives that we don't know. But when we start looking at the gardening tools, it may help us to start thinking differently about our own lives. So I am thrilled. I am learning a whole lot from gardening, honestly, and not just the garden only, but applying it to my own life as I grow, So this is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned tools, beginners. So we'll come to the pros later, but today we are starting with our beginners. So bear with us, those of us who are beginners and those who are pros, please bear with us. And pros, share your tools with us. But we are starting off. Abba is missing a tool, but those of us who don't even have any, where do we start? What do we need for our garden?
Yeah, I think that, let's say if you're going to do like, you're just doing pots.
Yeah.
You're planting everything in pots, then probably you don't need a lot of tools. Probably the most important tool that you might need is a fork, so that you can,
Can you show us a fork? Do you have one that you can show us?
I think I don't have a fork here, but I have a few tools here that I'm gonna show it with you. But a fork, you know, the end looks like this, so that you just use it, to poke into the pot, the soil in the pot, just to create holes for aeration, so the air can go into it. But a fork for this is kind of a hole and a fork in a certain way, but this is like two in one. But that's if you are doing a pot. One important thing need is a fork, so that you can actually turn the soil around the plant a little bit and poke holes, so that the water, if you water, it can go in well. But if you have a backyard garden like what I have, then probably you need a little bit more tools. Yeah, so the most important tools that I always tell people, have a pair of gloves. Very important.
Gloves.
It doesn't need to be bulky, but it has to be durable.
Okay.
Yeah, a pair of gardening gloves, and all these things can get them Home Depot, Walmart, dollar store, your neighborhood, gardening, nursery place that you buy your stuff and stuff. And then you need a shovel.
I need a shovel.
This is the shovel, so this is actually a handheld shovel, which is also very important.
Okay.
And then you need something that you're going to use to prune. So you need the pruning shears. And pruning shears comes in different forms. Like this is a little one that if you plant and then you have some dead, branches, you can go in there, cut them so that air can circulate through the farm very well. Because if you have a lot of dead leaves around the plant, it kills the plant actually. So you need to go. And then at times you also see that some of your plants are infected, disease. So you go and cut that infected portion out. So this is in a pair of shears that you can also get. And then sometimes you can get bigger ones like this.
Wow.
Bigger ones like this. And then you also, like I said, you need a garden fork. And then you also need, this is a kind of garden fork that, I use, kind of poke around. And then you need a rake. Let me see if I can find my rake. You know, you need to rake, you know, all the dead leaves out.
Wow.
Yeah, because like I said, I have a backyard garden. And then you don't want to forget your something like, I'm sorry about my noise, but a watering can. This is my watering can. This I fill it with water and I water my plants with it. And then once the plant, you know, grows up, you don't actually, the watering can, sometimes you can't, because they have all grown, it's difficult to walk through it. So then you're going to apply water hose. So it means that you might have a water, you should have a water outlet somewhere closer to the farm, or you have a water hose, you run into the place. And you need to attach the water hose to a nostril that is controllable, so that you can actually control the water that comes out to the plant, because you don't want to water too much. Then you're going to have erosion. You're going to, you know, all the mulch is going to be washed away. So you don't want that. Wow. So you need a nostril that you can actually regulate the pressure of the water that comes out.
Right. And Robin, I think this one, the hose also has a, some of them have the settings, so you can
the settings, yes. You can
so what is a good setting to use? Is it the shower, the shower setting, or is it depends?
It shouldn't be too much pressure. It should be slow, so that the water can actually seep into the ground.
Okay.
Because if you use the number that has too much pressure, it's just gonna go and then it will wash away. And you don't want that. You know, you want, maybe you have applied mulch, you want the mulch to stay. You don't want to wash it away. And then because I have a backyard garden, when the season is over with the snow and everything, it becomes hard. And before I begin to start the gardening again, I need to tilt my ground. Wow. I actually need to tilt. So, I mean, if I go out, my internet will go out, but actually, last week, I had to go through, rake all the dirt out of my garden, clean everything. Then I actually use a pickaxe. If you can see me, you see this? Yes. I'm sorry. Wow. You know, next time probably we'll make a nice PowerPoint. But I have a pickaxe that I use. So this is actually what I use to tilt my ground. Wow. I dig through all the ground, turn the soil, and then amazing. So these are a few tools. And then you also, if you get a bigger hole, like this is a hole. I was showing you the hole for weeding. So you have one, this is 2-in-1, but a bigger hole, which you use to weed, you know, to take care of any weeds that you can have as the plants are growing, so that you weed it nicely, you know, because once you have a lot of weeds in the garden, it competes with the nutrition with the plants.
Amazing, amazing. Wow. I can only say wow. And I see a lot of wow. I see a lot of wows as well. Margie saying, wow, the tools. I'm like, yes. But I think we build the tools with time, you know, and you may not have to buy all of them at once. Again, start small and, you know, get the tools as you go along, and look out for, I think, I mean, at least I can speak to the US side of things. The Walmart does a lot of clearance when the summer is ending. Those are great times to keep an eye out and get your parts, get your tools. I mean, they really do some good sales out there. So that has been how I get a lot of my tools. Walmart, that is a place. Keep an eye on the Home Depot doesn't make really any sales on tools because they have it all year round. But Walmart, because they do it as seasonal, they normally stock up in the season. Right now, if you go, you see all that in there. And then at the end, towards August, September, they'll start fading it out, and they really slash it. So keep an eye on that one, and definitely. And Uncle Teddy said you can also buy used tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get them from tag sale, and then I have these tomato cages that I use. I've used it for like 4 years, and they still. Anytime I go tag sale, I see something, I buy one and come and put it down. Tag
sale. For those of us who don't know what tag sale is, maybe someone is moving and they are selling a lot of things in their house, or they are not moving, but they have too many things and they are selling it. That's also a good place to keep an eye out for these things. So this is really helpful. I mean, this is really helpful because I think that we can really dig in and learn things. But one thing I wanted to ask is the soil. You know, a lot of us, because we used to be in places where soil wasn't bought and it was all over the place, we struggle with the concept of buying soil and good soil for that, you know, for that, because good soil is expensive sometimes. It's a bit pricey, but then we need that. So let's talk about soils. How important is that to our garden, the soil?
I think that the soil is very important in every farm, and depending on the type of soil that you have,
Yeah.
that's what shows what can even grow. Like, for example, the beach, you can't go and plant plantains along the beach, but
No.
something like coconut will do well because they do well in the sand. They don't have problem with the salt water and everything. So for a general backyard garden, I think the soil is very important.
Wow.
And the best way, like for me, if you come and see my backyard, my garden, it has a lot of stones in it. So you would think that how can even, if you see the crops that I put on my Facebook or my Snapchat or Instagram accounts, like if you see the harvest, it's like you'll be amazed. Is it coming from this soil?
Yeah.
So what I do is that, and there are so many ways to have a good soil. Some people do compost so that when the season is over, maybe they have this big barrel that any leftover food, they throw it in, and then after some time, they add a little bit soil, and then they see any leftover food or anything, that decomposes, they throw it in. Some people, they throw some leaves, when they cut their lawn, they bag it, and then they throw it at a certain place, and they mix it with soil.
Right.
So the soil is very important. So me personally, what I do before, even this year is that sometimes I go to Home Depot or Lowe's and I get mulch from them. And then where I live, I also live a little bit in the woods. So I go in the woods, after so many years, these leaves have fallen down, they fall down, they decompose and stuff like that. So I actually dig from at my backyard in the woods. The soil is so rich in nutrient. I dig it out with a wheelbarrow. And one of the tools that I also forgot is wheelbarrow.
Wheelbarrow.
To transport your soil. So I go there and then I dig myself, and I come and put it in my garden, spread it all around. And sometimes that when I cut my soil I put the grass at the corner, and I mix the leaves and everything. I put my lawnmower into mulch, so it actually grinds it. Then I add soil to it. So by the time the year comes, everything is discomposed. Then I just spread it all over the garden. One thing that you can, if you don't, because Home Depot, the mulch can also be very expensive.
Right.
If you have like a farm where they rear animal farm, they always have compost that they sell that can sometimes be cheaper if you can go carry. I mean, it smells, but the smell is not that pleasant, but I don't mind. I go there, I buy it from them. If you have local transfer station, you see all the leaves that the public works people, they collect from our street at the end in fall, they take it to the transfer station, they grind it. All the leaves, the trees that they cut, they also grind it, and then they mix it with soil and they create mulch. So if you're a resident in that city, you can go there as much as you can dig. You can dig it, and then you pay a small fee. Like today, after this, I'm going to my transfer station to get some. Maybe I spend $10, I could get about 8 bags of soil.
Wow.
And then this year, one thing that I've also done is that, thank God, last year I started rearing chicken.
Hey, we should have seen the garden, in fact.
Last year, I bought some chickens. So, and then the chicken poop with the wood chipping, because I put wood chippings into the woods. I ask the chicken, they eat themselves. The chicken poop, I don't throw it away. So as it becomes full, I take it and I come and spread it on the garden. I take it. And so yes, even last week before I began to dig, I spread all the chicken coop, the chicken dung, on the garden, and then I dig. So I mix it with it. And that is the best fertilizer you can ever have.
Wow.
So you can go to, if you have any animal farm, people who rear animals, you can go to the farm and buy soil, cow dung, they mix it with soil. You can buy some. You can buy mulch and all these soil types from Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart.
Right.
You can also go to your local nursery, they also have the soil that you can buy. And some of you, maybe your backyard, your soil is great. You don't need to buy. So this year, I don't anticipate myself buying a lot of soil because I have my chicken, stuff that I'm going to mix it, compost that I'm going to mix it with it. And then I'll just go and get a little bit for my pots from my local transfer station. And
that's it.
I run into the woods, get a little bit more from the woods, and then save money. Everywhere we can save money, it works.
Wow. Wow. I think this is amazing. You shared so much details that I think we have to just sit back and think about how do we get the soil, and remembering that the soil is important to the garden that we are trying to grow. Remember that I told you, all of us are going to take this challenge this year. We're going to try gardening, whether in a pot, whether in a small, and seriously, and then in the summer, you're going to post your pictures. You're going to challenge ourselves because we want to learn, we want to grow, and we want to keep on encouraging each other. And not only is it going to help us, with getting food from our garden, but it's going to also help us to learn something about our own lives and how much needs to go into our lives. It's truly, we are the garden of God. If God has made us in his image and really made us in a garden, what does that mean? What goes into it? Look at how much details and how much work goes into it. But I'm going back to ask a question about the soil. So I know that we have different types of soil, and you mentioned them all over, but I want to ask, specifically, if I'm starting with a small pot, like let's say I want to do a seed and plant the seed, is there a type of soil that I can use? Because I know that in Home Depot and all these other places, they have the potting soil, they have the topsoil, they have, just help us a little bit so we don't go and buy topsoil for the garden. And then we also don't go and buy all fertilizer for the garden or all compost. So help us understand what do we need for what? Like, is there a specific, a soil for outside gardening or on, in-ground gardening and all that? I think a little bit of help would do.
I think that, and they have different brands. They have the Scots, they have the Turfs and all this. So let's say there are people who don't buy, they plant their own nursery, and then from there they transplant. So if you are going to plant your own nurseries, you need small pots like this. And if you were going to plant your nursery, at least for me in Connecticut, I think my time of planting my own seedlings are over, because I should have started it somewhere in February. So if you are going to do that, you have this, it says a seed perfect mix. Yeah. So, and then when you go to Home Depot, there are so many, like I said, there are so many of them.
Right.
So if you are going to do pot soil, even though there are so, it will tell you pot soil mix. Okay. You can use it. And then they can also, they also have the mulch. One of the things that the mulch does is that it prevents weeds. So after you plant, you have your good soil, whatever soil type you chose, and you planted, you put the soil in the pot or on the ground, or when you transplanted your plants, you dig around it, you put the good soil, you put your plant, you transplant, and then you cover it. Then you cover the whole surface with the mulch. What the mulch does is that it prevents weeds.
Yeah.
And the mulch, you can even just use regular mulch, or you can use straw, and that's just spread it, And so for the soil types, I mean, when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and they also have professionals over there, just tell them, oh, I want to plant this. They will show you what to, and even if they don't show you, you want something that has what do you go, you know, something that doesn't have like sand. You don't want to buy topsoil. Topsoil is for like you are growing alone.
Right.
So what you need to buy is you need to buy what they say garden soil.
Garden soil.
Garden soil. Because topsoil has a lot of, the percentage of sand in it is a lot. And if you have too much sand in the soil, it means it also doesn't have a lot of nutrients.
Amazing.
So you don't want to just buy topsoil.
Right.
Like for me, sometimes I buy a few topsoil, then I mix it with my compost.
Okay. Okay.
You understand me? So, and they have different brands. If you are growing tomatoes, soils that does well with tomatoes. If you are growing zucchini, if you are going like you know, mint, you know, cauliflower, all those things, different things, and what will do well in it.
Wow. Wow. So there is learning to be done. And absolutely, I think there's a lot of soils out there, but make sure that when you go to buy, check in with, you know, the experts there, because a lot of the, you know, stores will have people who really know the stuff as well. And so when you ask, they will walk you through it, even if, you know, you don't know everything. So that is a good resource also to use as you look at that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that.
Let me say something. I think that, you see, that's why I quoted a scripture from Proverbs chapter 18 verse 1. The learning aspect of it is very important.
The learning.
When I decide, for example, when I decided to, anything that you want to do, read about it. Go to YouTube. How do I plant vegetable garden?
Yeah.
It's out there. Information.
It's out there.
When I started to raise chickens, it's like I had no clue. Growing up, our chickens, they are free range. They walk around, there's no coop. I actually have to go online to get a design, how to build the coop. Wow. I actually have to check with my city to know how many chickens that I can have because of the acre of land that I sit on.
Wow.
And am I even allowed to have a rooster? Or because some cities, you are not allowed to have a rooster. I had a rooster by mistake, and then what happened to the rooster? I don't want to talk about it. That would be another. Yeah, but I think that what is important is that read about it. So like come back, when I started chicken, I didn't know anything about it. And then they were doing well. I began to get my eggs, and then winter comes.
What do you do?
What do I do? And my wife was so worried about the chickens, even more worried about them than me. Because she cared so much for the chickens that what are they going to do? Are you going to put heat lamp in the coop? What are you going to do? They're going to get cold and not easy, get really freezing. And I started reading, and I called my friend who is also into chicken farms. He told me some things. Even he told me that, George, they're going to be okay. I still didn't believe it.
Wow.
Until I started reading, and I looked at people's posts and the response from experts and everything. And then I didn't have to provide heat lamps. God in his nature, everything through the winter, I just have to make sure that there was enough bedding in the coop.
Wow.
Enough bedding in the coop. And they went through the winter in the snow. They even loved the snow.
Hey,
nothing happened to them. So, but it came, you know, all the anxiousness and everything was lowered. It went away because I read, and I got to know what exactly they needed.
Wow.
And then even I got to know that in the winter, because chicken eats sand, it helps them with digestion. So in the winter, because there's not even open ground for them to be able to eat sand, there is a particular sand that you can buy and mix it with their food. Or you give them food, you know, that are grates, like corn grates.
Yeah.
It becomes like fiber and helps them in their digestion. And it also helps them build heat, body temperature. It increases their body temperature. But it all came about when I read. I researched, and I got all this knowledge. And my chickens went through the winter, no problem.
Amazing. So like you said, there's a wealth of knowledge out there. In this day and age, we don't have an excuse. Back then, there was no YouTube to search Back then, you didn't even know that Reverend George existed and all these things.
What a
But
shock.
now that you know, and you know that he's not just a father, he's not just a friend and a brother and a pastor, but he's also this gardener. Ask, ask, ask. You don't know how to do it. Ask. Don't just sit there and make excuses and say, oh, as for me, I don't know how to do this. It's because, again, the desire is not there. But remember that we are all built-in gardeners because the one who made us was the first gardener. So we all have that gardening in us, and we have to bring it out. We have to make sure that we are using it, because it's not just for you, it's for others. Other people will also benefit if you were to do your little piece of a garden. Wow, I'm excited. I'm challenged already. Are you also?
We are all excited.
We are all excited.
I'm excited too.
I tell you. So we're going to talk a little bit. I know our time is almost up, and that is the challenge with the time. We are not able to get everything, but it's okay because we get enough for us to now start working on the research, other research that we need. And a lot of you have also shared different things that I think will help us. I'll reshare some of the things that Reverend also has shared with me, and then we'll continue learning, because that is the point. The point is to continue learning. But I think it's important that we talk a little bit about the bed, right? So because you have a backyard, we're going to focus on the raised bed or some type of bed. And then next week, I'll have another person, maybe I'll focus a bit on the pot. But raised bed, how do I go about it? So let's say I have a bigger space or enough space to create a bed. How do I do market? Just buy the wood, any wood, and just.
For me, I don't use beds.
And
I've never used beds
I see.
in my gardening. And if you have a backyard, if you have a good backyard and you have good sun coming in,
Yeah.
it depends. Normally people use beds just because their soil, they don't have good soil.
Okay.
Yeah, so that they do the raising beds, they raise it up, and then they put good soil in the beds.
Yeah.
So if you want, and if you go to Home Depot or any like Tractor and Co, some of them have even beds that are built already.
Yeah.
So all that, you just have to grab it, put it in your car, just come and put it in the place that you want to put it. You understand me? Or if you're a handyman, you want to get yourself a little bit dirty, get to learn something, if you want to, there are different types of beds and different sizes. And like I was telling you, when I was building my chicken coop, I've not gone to carpentry school before, but I went online. I took a lot of designs. There were a lot of, blueprints online. I chose the one that I liked. There's a process, the nail I have to buy, the wood that I have to buy, whether treated or untreated wood that I have to buy. Everything is spelled out there for me. And I followed it, the workflow step by steps. And then my friend came over to help me. And I was able to build a coop. When I saw online the coop that they are selling for $3,000, $2,000, I spent about $600 on my coop. And if I wanted to sell that coop that I built, I would sell it for almost $5,000.
Wow.
So if and even if you don't even need to handy, always take a step of faith and learn something.
Learn something.
So go online, look at the dimensions, look at the dimensions, and then just go to, and some of these dimensions, the woods are already cut in the store. If you go to Home, even if you want a specific dimension, they will cut them for you.
Right. Yeah.
All that you need to come nail it, put it wherever you want to put it. And then begin to fill it with your soil, tilt it, and prepare it for the transplanting of your seeds or of your nursery.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So our time is almost up. I think we have a few more minutes. I want to ask about the time commitment. How much do we need, to build in time for the garden? Or once we have it in place, that's it, it runs by itself and we don't have to do much?
It's like a gardening needs a lot of love. I mean, because it's a place that when I come back from work, I get it, I take my clothes, put on my gardening clothes, I go into the garden, I just, look at my plants. If there are weeds, I begin to take them out. And then what do you call it? So it needs a little bit, especially the beginning.
The
You really
beginning.
have to keep your eye on it. And then there are also different type of plants and the attention that they need.
Right.
Some plants need a lot of water. Some plants
Okay.
don't. If you water it too much, you want to spoil it. So
Mm.
from the beginning, the planting season, from transplanting, when you transplant it, it needs a lot of care and you need to watch it. There are times that deer comes in to just eat it up. So you need to watch for deers, for coyotes, for squirrels, and all those
Wow.
animals that can eat it. I've not had problems with deer, but I've had friends who have had problems with deer come and eat their garden and stuff like that. So it needs,
Mm.
but most of the time it's either in the morning or in the evening after work.
Okay.
You are watering, nobody waters their garden in the afternoon because the temperature is high. When
Yeah.
you water, the soil is going to get warm and it's going to affect the plant.
Mm-hmm.
You either water in the morning, or there are plants that you water in twice a day, morning and the evening. And there are
Mm.
plants that you just need to water once a day.
Yeah.
So it needs a little bit of time from the beginning, but as they begin to grow, you know, every stage and the times that it needs.
Mm.
Every stage and the times that it needs. Once they grow, then you are beginning to think about, oh, I need to cage them. I need to stake them out,
Yeah.
take them out, or maybe there are some dead branches that I need to cut them out and stuff like that, so every stage and attention.
And what you
But
need.
it's not like I need 3 hours in my garden. No, I need
Oh.
2 hours in my garden. Maybe some 30 minutes, you are done, you're out. But I love to stay in there and just walk around and, just to breathe some fresh air, especially in this COVID season. And that is the reason why everybody must have a garden.
Everyone needs a garden.
You can get some
Wow.
air outside.
Get some fresh air. Get to do something. Amazing, amazing. So it's time commitment. You need to have some time to commit to that and to do some of the work. Like Reverend said rightly, every garden needs some TLC. And we all need that to happen if we want to have a great garden. It doesn't just happen by just sitting it there and it works itself. It is always something that we put in. So amazing, amazing conversation. I am so thrilled. I'm pumped up, ready to
You're all pumped up.
my ready to take my garden to the next level, right?
Why not? Why not? It's
I
possible.
think I think one of the questions I had for you is about the deers and all the animals that could easily eat your garden or come in and make a mess. What are the things that we have to put in place? Like I know some people will use a wire and all that.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
could, if you have the luxury to fence it so that it deters them out,
yeah.
or you put some scarecrows.
Yeah. Wow.
Remember those days?
Scarecrows, I remember.
Put a stone and then you tie it and you put it in a bottle, then it will be making noise, kurung, 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 that scares them away. At times you could put, if you have a teddy bear, you pretend like, scarecrow, or you fence it. Like somebody had problem with deers and squirrels. And then we read, he was telling me, and I also read that if you hang Irish spring soap in the garden, it deters
Really?
them away. So he
Really?
bought Irish spring soap, hang them, and they never showed up.
Hmm. That's another one. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, so I mean, just if you're having problem, just Google search it. It's
Mhm.
out there. Try it. If it works, hey. If it doesn't work, try another one. But the
Try
most
another one.
important thing, I have not fenced my garden, and I have woods all around me. But late pastor, you've been to where we live before, and I see deers passing around, but they've never ventured to come into my garden.
Wow.
I've never had problems. Last year, I let my chickens out a little bit and they were beginning to give me problems because they come and, they are looking for worms. And then when the fruit started coming out, they started eating them. So I caged them, I put them in the pen and they haven't come out ever since. So if you're having big problem, probably, and fencing, go to the bush. cut some stick, come and put it down. Go to Home Depot, get something. Just come and they are easy. And put some scarecrows up, and then you'll be good.
Wow. Practical steps, practical wisdom. I am loving it. I think it's a good opportunity for us to start a garden in our own small way. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't, and you don't have an excuse to say you don't have a green thumb or whatever. We all have a little bit of gardening in us because we are made as masterpieces in the image of God, who is the master gardener. I think we all have the idea of garden from God, the Garden of Eden, all the way to Revelation. We'll go back to the garden. So this is a great conversation. I hope you had some takeaways from here. As we end, I want to ask Reverend, any tricks, tips that we should consider? I know you've shared a lot from your heart, and I am thrilled to go back and listen again, take my notes from there, and come back behind the scenes. Those of you who are not friends with Reverend George, make sure you make yourself a friend and find him on Facebook and ask the questions. I tell you, he will try and help you. So definitely. But any tricks or tips that we should take away?
Yeah. Thank you, Lady Pastor, very much once again for the opportunity to share what we have learned and what we continue to learn. And I just want to encourage everybody that it's possible. It is not difficult. It's possible. Just set your mind to it. Try it. To everything, there is always a first time, and there is nothing new under the sun. Try it. You face with the problem. I mean, I know a little bit, not that I know too much, but I'm still learning. You can always reach out to me. Oh, Reverend George, I'm doing this. What do you think the best way? And I'm sure there are also a lot of people,
a lot of pros out there.
On this, even our meeting today, that have also done gardening, that you can also reach out to them. But I think that gardening is like a real estate. Gardening is like a real estate, and location is very important. When you were buying your house, you were concerned about your location. So if you want to take it out there, one of the tips is like, see your gardening as you are buying a real estate. The location is important. So once the location is important, you are going to site it right. You have to make sure that you don't have a lot of shade. There's good supply of sunlight, and then make sure there's availability of water. Start with great soil. Know your zone. When your last frost, and your last frost, you must always know it is very important. What am I going to plant?
Oh yeah.
Can I do containers, pots, and stuff like that? Discover your zone. Learn your frost dates. How long will it take for this thing I'm planting to be harvested? And all that, and then buy mulch, fertilizer. That's one thing that we couldn't get opportunity to touch on. I don't do a lot of fertilizers, but there are a lot of good fertilizers out there. Some of them are organic. They are water soluble, so that doesn't really add any danger or poison to your plants or anything. Most of them. But if you are doing fertilizers, probably look for one that has as twice amount of phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium. And all these, sometimes they will tell you 10, 24, 10. So it's 10% of nitrogen, 10% of phosphorus, and 20% of phosphorus, and then 10% of potassium. So it's 1 to 1. Those are, and if you have a good soil, you don't really need that much fertilizer. And then feed your garden regularly. Don't neglect it. Take good care. Water it. Prune it. Visit it. Just talk to your plant. Hey, I'm here just to see how you're doing. Wow, I can't believe you are growing up already. Pick the leaves, all the weeds. Pick them out. Pick them out. Pick them out. If every week you're gonna just walk through it, weed underneath it, or you can just uproot some things that are some weeds that are coming. And I believe that as you do all these basic steps, you're gonna have good harvest, And it's always a joy to see your plants bear fruits.
Bear
You
fruits.
can't even eat it. You get to share it with the people in your neighborhood, your friends, your co-workers, your church members, and that is the joy of it. That is,
Wow.
and I love it, and I encourage everybody to step into it. So thank you very much once again, Lady Pastor, for the opportunity, and I will always cherish it.
Always a joy to have you anytime. Behind the scenes or on Facebook, it's always a joy to connect, Reverend. And I'm sure that we've all learned one thing or the other. Again, the challenge is start a garden this year. You have it, it's in you. You have to start small, that's okay. Start, because some of us are working on some very hard relationships, and we are going to use our garden and all the skills that we learn from there to cultivate other things in our lives. Trust me, it's going to happen, but it will take you having faith to step into this space and do this gardening thing for a start. And I believe that will take a lot of, great things happening in our lives, not just in our garden, but also in our lives. So I'm thrilled. I am excited. It's raining today, so I can't do much of work in my backyard. Yeah, but for those of us who have the sun and everything, today is a good day to sit down and think and plan your garden, and whatever small way you can, just try it. One of the greatest things in life is we get to try. So try, don't be afraid, and try it. It will work. So wonderful. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and the rest of your weekend. Excited to see all of you, Uncle Teddy. Thank you for sharing. He had asked about wood chippings. Can we use wood chippings as well for mulch? Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't want too much of it.
Not too much of it. Okay.
Yeah, you can just throw it around. You can use, but you want the one that is not the big chippings. You want the smaller ones there, the ones
the fine ones.
Granular.
Yeah. Okay. So, or tree chippings is what he had asked.
Yeah. I mean, what it does is that it prevents weeds. That's one of the most important effects of it. It prevents weeds from growing under your
plants. All right. So thank you all very much. Once we get our vegetable gardens together, we can learn about flower gardening as well, because we'll have the skills already. Thank you. Thank you all. And we'll see you next week. I'm looking at a master.